There we go.
And just like that, even though behind the scenes it was not just like that, but and just like that, we are back for another recap review of the hit HBO Max show. And just like that, it's your boy Lucas with my amazingly talented coworker here. Decide.
You sounded
How
like
you do?
you sound like a snake from Slytherin,
Look
okay?
here, and I thought as I was saying it, I thought like that's the way Voldemort would call the big snake out there. If next I would have been like then he would have been a problem. Oh, but how you doing this evening?
Oh, today is better than yesterday. I had therapy today, so we are out of a straight jacket and into a jean
Oh,
jacket.
that is wonderful. And here I am with the building burning around me as I'm figuring everything out. It's amazing how this works. But we're still here to give y'all amazing content, and
Yeah.
we are here to talk about episode 3. Now, the episode opens up as Carrie here is talking to her book publisher about her future book. As the book publisher said, hopefully, this does not come across as me pressuring you, but what are you doing? And this is what Carrie tells her she's writing fiction, something completely different than what Carrie has done before. But also, here, the book publisher gives her dates as Amazon wants to put her on a book tour. They give her an amazing location to go to, and then they say Williamsburg, Virginia. So you should know which one Carrie picked because Aiden's in Virginia, and Williamsburg, Virginia is not that far away from Norfolk, Virginia, and we're in the DMV area, and both of those are way too far to travel to under any circumstance. But
Absolutely.
what did you just think about Carrie taking this opportunity here on this book tour to go visit Aiden? Because even her agent said, or her book editor said, like, did you not hear the first location? Like, how could you pass on that?
I think for me, it's a lot of red flags for your girl. I'm really I'm baffled because, and again, maturity is not an age thing, right? That's an
Yes.
experience thing, that's
Mhm.
a growth thing and whatnot. And so when I hear the opposite, I'm like, oh, Amazon, Google, some whoop de whoop de woo. And I'm like, I already know where this is going.
Yeah.
I dislike being able to know what's happening before it happens. It's always been one of my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeves with shows. And I still want more for her. Like I can't help but say this again in episode 3. Like I just is she dumbing down herself to a certain
Mm,
degree in order to be around and have piece of Aiden, because it's not you're not getting all of him, and for me that's a problematic. So to choose Virginia over the other two locations, and obviously the other two big, and maybe she don't need the money because these are rich people problems, but
yeah.
I mean the exposure for me is like that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That I think that was the key part there is the exposure makes more sense in the other market than Williamsburg, Virginia. But again, you hit the nail on the head here, and that's the hardest part, especially for me in this episode, is the point that she's continuously, it feels like, reaching out to make it work with Aiden, and he is not fully reciprocating what she's doing, and I think that's pushing her to go even further of saying, okay, I need to do extra to make this work. And that's what you get to the point of saying you kind of want more for Carrie here than it feels like suffering is a good word. If not suffering, maybe capitulating too much into the relationship.
uh oh, Google, tell me what the fuck, what mean what.
Oh man.
Y'all come get your
Okay.
friend, come get your friend.
Hey, that's the SAT word of the day. Capitulating. And I don't know where that came from because I've literally never in my life used that word until this moment. Boy, I tell you, sometimes in life,
I'm
things
not
just
doing
come
this
at you
with you.
fast, and capitulating is one of them. But next up, we get Carrie as she's at Anthony's grand opening as she's telling the girls her plans of using this book trip as a way to see Aiden and just invite him to lunch, which one is absolutely silly just to say that. But during this lunch, she receives a call from Wyatt's mother, Aiden's ex wife, even though she makes a mistake of calling her Aiden's wife. And in this call, she's thinking that Aiden's ex wife is going to ask her not to come. Instead, she asks her, "Can you score me some Adderall? Because it is hard in Virginia, of all places, it is hard in Virginia to get Adderall." What did you just one, what did you think about this whole setup that one, she's this comfortable in calling Carrie to get illegal drugs? In all honesty, because that's what they are.
To me, so this was very, again, I feel like I'm being so harsh, but I can't see anything else. This is an awkward conversation. It's out of the blue. We don't have any conversations with them at all ever previously. So for her to feel this comfortable and Carrie feel comfortable enough to even do it and get the drugs is even more like, what are we doing here? Right? We all know that if you get pulled over with Adderall, hey, listen, again,
Mm-hmm.
rich people
Yeah.
problems, right? Because if you
Yep.
get pulled over and you don't look like us, I mean, hey, who
Hey,
knows?
it's Tylenol.
It's
But if you look like
culture.
us, that's a jail sentence. Yeah.
So I didn't like it. I didn't like the story. That storyline for me, you know, I didn't like it because what are we doing? Like you're going to see him, you're hoping that he asks you to stay, lunch, all these things. It just feels super needy.
Pick
And
me.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm being too hard on her, right? Like because of course you have to make effort in a long distance relationship on
Mm-hmm.
both sides, but like what like what's the end game here? Because it just doesn't seem like it's still years in the making because Aiden was very clear that he wanted to do certain things up until like what is this kid's name? I don't remember. W. That's
Wyatt.
yeah. There we go.
Wyatt.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. It feels weird that she was comfortable doing such a thing and also that she didn't even clear it with Aiden. She never asked if he was okay with the Adderall or like did he know? You know what I mean? Like these are things, the conversations that should be had if you're going to do something like this, in my
'Cause,
opinion
I
anyway.
mean, clearly by his reaction to her pulling out the Adderall by the end of the episode, you kind of wonder, was this something he even knew about or definitely approved of? Because he does not look happy by the end of this episode when she pulls out that Adderall. But again, I think, well, Curry, you hit the nail on the head here, but it also brings up the question of what you're willing to go through for love. And I think that's what you're seeing here with Carrie more than anything else is that she, again, is just, I'm not going to use the big word I used last, but she, because it popped into my head immediately to use again, but that she is willing just to always put her best foot forward, even if Aiden's not meeting her there. And she's trying her best. Like, to me, it's even obvious when she decides that she's going to follow through to get these drugs. It's because she thinks she's helping out Wyatt, which in turn helps out Aiden. And she's willing to do something highly illegal. Granted, boy, do these white women make it seem like none of this is a problem. As
Child.
we clearly just see Charlotte go up, take her phone, go to two different other very rich women and say, "Hey, by the way, who has Adderall?" And one's like, "Nah, I don't have
Slow
the Adderall you're
releasing.
looking
I don't
for."
have the slow releasing, but I have the fast releasing. Well, what?
And then the other mom's like, "Wait a
casually
minute,
in the
I'm
bread
on the phone right
shop.
now. I'm on the phone right now, texting. I think we have it, but let me just see. And then don't worry about it. A package will be at your door when you get home. This is why fentanyl is killing our communities. Because rich white people in these problems of getting such easy access to these drugs. Right. I did like that they attempted to put in the storyline that because of so many kids being diagnosed in this way that the drug is in short supply. But you can't say that and then make it seem like rich people can skirt that at any given time by just showing how easily they were able to obtain the Adderall without any questions. Again, it just brings up problems here, along with Carrie, and Aiden's relationship as a whole here of the extent that she's willing to extend herself to try to make this work. And it's kind of, and I think the reason, I think you said it best, the reason why you want more for her, because you kind of see this going down a road of it's not going to end well, because one side can't constantly do it with it ending positively.
If
So
it's
you kind of wonder
uneven,
if that's what it's going to do.
it's not a healthy relationship. And right now, I
Yeah.
just feel like Carrie is the one making all the effort,
Hmm.
and not really setting boundaries either. So I think that's also problematic.
Yeah. Also in the scene, it was about Anthony opening up his new uh bread restaurant, and I guess his hunks aren't hunking, and and no one's going to buy his bread because they only buy bread with packages,
But here's
supposedly
my
here.
thing though, and what I didn't, which is very interesting, is that this restaurant only caters to a certain
Women and gay men. It's fine
right.
to say it. That's it. It does not cater to anyone else. Women and gay men. While granted, I'm assuming for the place where he's located at, and in New York City, that is a huge market. But I think and just like that, the sequel to Sex and the City don't want to state the obvious thing to do here. Ain't no way I'm going to open up a restaurant that caters to women and gay men, and that is pertaining to men's bodies, and I am just not going on OnlyFans and booking a bunch of them. We're gonna end this right now, buddy. Book a bunch of OnlyFans models, and y'all gonna sell this bread.
Ridiculous.
Hey, front to back, literally front to back. We're gonna sell this bread. Oh, next up, we get Lisa as she meets with her editor Grace, and she gets troubling news that Grace has been offered I'm almost say a job of a lifetime, an offer of a lifetime to help put together a documentary with Steve McQueen. And to do so, she would have to leave Lisa's project, and Lisa is highly upset. What I'm going to ask here, because the more interesting element that was brought up here by Grace is that this was a project that was supposed to have been for a year, and now they're on year 8. And Lisa has stopped and started this project. What did you think about Lisa's reaction to who I'm assuming is her friend here, getting a job offer of a lifetime, but having to leave her project to fulfill it? And do you think she was being selfish considering how much time she's already taken up in her life?
So I wasn't shocked. I'll say that by Lisa's, reaction, because obviously she's super excited until she realizes that it means that, well, hey, listen, girl, I gotta leave you. And here's the thing. I think that even though she came around in the end, really and truly, like, she's given you 8 years of her life, as her husband
Mhm.
stated, right? 8 years is a long time to dedicate self to somebody else's project. Not saying that she's not going to dedicate herself to somebody else's project as well, and with the Steve McQueen, but it's like you said, it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and this is something she has to do for herself. And so, not surprised, once Lisa really processed this, she was going to understand,
Yeah.
but she was just afraid. You know what I mean? This project, especially, we know in this business of media, editing is very, very
Very
tedious.
important.
When you
Yes.
find a good editor, you're like, wait a minute, where you going? Why you leaving?
Hmm.
So I understood that, but I'm interested to see who that new person is going to be in terms of like changing the dynamic and maybe even bringing something new and flavorful
Hmm.
for what she needs in this particular moment with the documentary.
Yeah, I think that was clearly the most important point was to me that Grace said, like, I've been on this project for 8 years, and that it started and stopped as you had children. So it's like you started it, then you stopped it, then you started and the point that you had an editor that was willing to stick around with you for that long, with what she had to deal with, is amazing unto itself. And then for it to be your friend and to get this opportunity, as Herbert points out in their next conversation, he's like, "Wait a minute, yeah, that's wrong." And then she says, "Who's it with?" And he's like, "Oh, that Steve McQueen, the one, the dream person to be. Of course, she would leave you." Like he even the point he pinpoints to his wife. Technically, you've been kind of like running this into the ground at this point because of your uncertainties of how everything's going to work here. But Grace has stuck it out. But you can't stay in the way of a friend's big opportunity. I think that's the question that really needs to be asked. I'm gonna ask you all this. Do you think it's ever okay in any situation? Let's say she's only working for your project for 6 months. Do you think it's ever okay to step on a friend's huge opportunity? Do you think the loyalty to you should outweigh your joy for them possibly being able to expand or expand upon whatever their business life looks like with an opportunity that's once in a lifetime?
I think that that's not if anybody says yes, that's not a good friend. And like I say that with the utmost respect, but when you think about that, imagine me calling you at 3 a.m. because my tire went flat, right? I'm
Hmm.
expecting you. I'm like, hey, you're coming to pick me up. Okay, cool, great. But if you get into a relationship and I call you at 3 a.m., that's different because now you might not be able to
Hmm.
show up the way that you used to. I have to be mindful of that. I have to think
Yeah.
about you in that instance when in the first instance I was only thinking about me. A real friend will actually think about how
Hmm.
that business relationship is impacting, which is why they always say, right, mixing friends or family with business is a tricky
Yeah.
situation because you just never know what's going to happen.
I think yeah, that's the biggest part there. Friends and business is hard to mix together because once lines are blurred, you just don't know where to go with everything. And that's what Lisa and Grace are stuck at. Next up, we get back to Carrie as her and Miranda at her place, and she gives Miranda a key to her place, which is very odd because she gave Miranda a key to her place before Aiden had the key to the house that he technically owns with her. Very, very, very weird here.
I mentioned that in the last episode. I said Aiden don't have a key yet. Should he? What's
Yes,
going on?
that is odd. But even Miranda brings it up as a joke, and we see just how sensitive Carrie is about it. One, we'll focus on Carrie's sensitivity as it pertains to Aiden, even with her friends. Do you think that's something that could be considered as a red flag?
So the more sensitive you are, here's the thing. I think that the more sensitive you are on a subject, especially with your friends, the more you're thinking about, like you've already been thinking about what they've been saying. You're already mulling it over in your head and it don't make sense to you. So when somebody else brings it up, now you're
Right.
equally as upset and
Yeah.
irritated because you know what I'm saying? Because it's not
Hmm.
that bothersome if it wasn't like if it didn't like
Yes.
tick you. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't like that
Hmm.
thing in the back of your, but I think that Carrie has been getting even more sensitive episode after episode, especially
Yeah.
because Miranda seems to be the only one calling her out. Well, except for Anthony, right? Because Charlotte is
Yeah.
kind of like go with the flow. Seema will also kind of call her out, but in a way that's less, because also Seema is
Aggressive.
looking for love. Yes, so it's different. But for me, when when she says that, that's like, so I was talking to somebody the other day and I said there's certain things that my friends know they can't tease me about because I'm still sensitive about it, right? So Carrie is sensitive because in the back of her head, it makes her
Yeah.
uncomfortable because she's thinking about it too. Like, what does this
Yep.
look like? Why am I doing all these things? And how do I move from here and not seem like I am going in a circle chasing my tail? Because that's almost what it feels like. And when people are bringing up these things to her or they're making that jab, she doesn't really have like a solid answer either to or response that
Yeah.
comes back to that.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue here is that she doesn't really know how to answer these questions as it pertains to Aiden. Everything is it's almost feels like she's just pulling out of thin air whenever they ask the question. Because she doesn't understand the relationship. So because she don't understand it, it's hard to explain it. But if you have good friends, their job is going to be to question you about things to make sure that you're at least in a safe space. And here with Miranda, I think it's just her joking, but we already know Miranda. When she jokes, she's dead serious, still, even in her joking. And the second part of this is Miranda finally tells Carrie that she invited Joy out. We thought it was for a date. It wasn't for a date. It was for a fake business meeting slash date. Something that a lot of people do for some odd reason here. Is what do you think about Miranda still having fears of putting herself out there to Joy?
Same thing, like I said before, she is not accustomed to going after a woman of that type of stature and of
Hmm.
that type of confidence level. And so going after somebody that's outside of your comfort zone, right? There was always that joke where it was like date inside of your league or your like.
Yeah, you can't. What they say, don't shoot, or they used to call it what? Don't shoot above the rim. Like it's so many different analogies as it pertains to trying to pursue someone who's possibly out of your league,
Right,
or
and
that
that's the
you
thing.
believe is out of your league.
That's what I was gonna
Because
say. It's
once
usually
once JD got Janet, no one's out of anyone's league. Okay, no one is out of anyone's league. Everything is possible.
that is like the best yet words because still to this day, I literally saw an article like 2 weeks ago. And was like,
Mhm.
how did JD fumble the bag with Janet? And we're like,
How do you cheat on Janet Jackson?
child. I mean, because maybe that
Ask Jermaine
song.
Dupri.
Listen, maybe that song was
And
just shits and giggles
and
in
then
my.
he wrote an amazing Usher album after doing that. Look how Janet inspires him. It was just amazing there. But again, like that's what it pertains to when someone believes they shouldn't be attempting to reach for someone because they think they're above them. And I think that's the issue with Miranda. But it's because Joy is so confident in who she is, and Miranda isn't yet. So I think that is the conflict that builds up that whole belief system for her. Next up, we get Charlotte and the family. As this is Charlotte again voicing a concern she voiced last season, which is I want to be more than just a mom. Like I need to make it in this business. I need to strive in this business for myself here. And this is her talking about how the younger people tend to go out to clubs and the parties, and that's how they broker these big deals. And she doesn't know how to do it until Giuseppe tells her, just go with it. Like, go to these clubs, just go with them. That's the best way to do it. What do you think about that advice for Charlotte? And also, because we're just gonna just close out this whole thing with Charlotte in this whole topic. What did you think about everything she went through from going to the club to going to the after party to going to the after party, which is insane to do, and just all of this in pursuit of a sale when we saw how easily she ended up getting one just by being herself.
I think that Giuseppe's advice was real
Right? Yeah.
because
Hmm.
we talked about something similar in terms of parents who get too attached to their children, right?
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
I think Charlotte needs the break. She needs to understand how to have a life outside of just
Yeah.
being a mom.
Exactly.
But the good thing
Hmm.
is that she's acknowledging that she wants to have that life and that she
Hmm.
doesn't want them to be as needy as they once were. So for me, I think I love that for her. And I think that it will
Yeah.
spark conversations with other moms, other dads, parents in general. Like you get to be more than just a parent, right? You were somebody before you
Mhm.
became a parent. And I think that it's very healthy for you to still remain
Yeah.
a person after that. You know what I mean? And so I like that she's, taking chances, but child, enough is enough. Once you said the after party, I would have been out, but the after party is a hell no for me.
Hey, look, I'm not even making it to the after party. I'm gonna be asleep somewhere. It's a wrap at 11:30. I need to be home. There is no need for me to be out in the streets past that time unless I'm on somebody's vacation. When you above 40, you don't hang out for no reason. And then shout out to my boy Harry. Look here, I know that this is a show geared towards women. And I understand y'all don't understand how difficult it is for men to have those button fly pants on. The reason I don't wear them is the same reason that Harry should have worn them, because unfortunately that has happened to me before, where you just got to go and it ain't working and you just like, "Mm,
That don't make no damn sense. But also, as a woman who's had buttons on a listen, not not it.
mm-mm."
The wiggle, the pause to the one side, back to the other side, the kegels. Because now you got to see, does it work? Was I doing my exercises all those months, and I like, is it paying off? Right? That's trash. I cannot. I felt for him, but also he was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm good.
Hey, at that I can't stay once I pee on myself. That's it. End the party. Party's over for me. Okay? Like I don't have fun. One, I wouldn't have buttoned them all the way up because I'm gonna leave the button in the middle open and I'm just gonna have to work it out from there. Because I refuse. Look here. I know this is TMI, but this is hilarious to me. Okay. Because of what I do for a profession, at times it's hard because of the equipment and stuff I wear, that it's hard to use the bathroom and get them. I literally wear undergarments that have a little pocket where instead of me having to pull them all the way down, I can pull everything out I need to out of the pocket for me to use the bathroom. And
Listen, I don't understand why y'all complain, because y'all have that option. Okay. Like if we on a road trip, you can just whip it and put it in the soda bottle, and at least aim for the soda bottle. But some of us, you know what I mean? That side, that highway, two doors open, squatting in the middle of the dust that's circling around. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't want any parts of it. I think that this was a fun scene, but like you said, it wasn't. It was her realizing, okay, I gotta find the balance. I cannot do after
yes.
party or after party, but I can go out and have fun. And if I make the sale, cool. But if not, then I am interested, however, in what comes after, or and if anything, in terms of this kiss that was had, because I don't think we addressed that in this episode. So I'm just interested to
Yeah, they
see,
did not address it in this episode at
what
all
it is. Yeah.
because it was very uncomfortable. But it also, I think, played into the blurring of lines as you hear the woman in this situation, how she's talking about this man is not in the like best light, in a sense where it doesn't sound as consensual as she would like it to be. Because she's talking about, I grabbed on him, I did this and that, I can't. And it's Charlotte attempting to like play middleman, play the wingman, and set this up. And you just try to do that with a man who just sniffed coke. You know what's not going to be there? Sense. You don't have sense when you sniff coke. He didn't know anything. And unfortunately, because of the way Charlotte was talking, it was it would have confused me that you're not
I'm
talking
not
about the
doing
coke.
this with you. I mean, it was hella confusing. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, "What is happening here? Are
Exactly.
you winging it to the girl, or are you winging, like, what's happening?" I'm confused, and he was definitely like, "What did he say? Moms and wives need love."
Mom's need to. Hey, that used to be my status. Hmm. All disrespected mothers, like wives. If your husband's not treating you the way you need to be treated, call 1-800 Lou me down,
Get
and
away,
Lou will
get
come.
away from here, get away from here right now.
But yeah, I think that again, this was just that element was just a fun part of the scene to break up the seriousness of Charlotte having to understand, like in the end, you got to embrace being a mom. As the woman said, who ends up buying the expensive painting, you're the coolest mom here. You have the coolest job. Of course, I'm going to come to you to buy this painting. It makes it almost makes you question the point that Charlotte has a bunch of rich friends, and you didn't think about just selling art to your rich friends. Like, I would
Mm.
assume that would have been the easiest outlet here. But again, a lot of times with and just like that, we have to run around a circle to get to the point that makes the obvious decision happen there. And that was that. And Harry had to pee on himself because you put him in buttonfly jeans. Buttonfly skinny jeans. Who wears skinny jeans? I had so many questions. They don't need to take Harry shopping at all with them.
Yeah, I
No
was
one wears
very
skinny
surprised
jeans
that that was
anymore.
what Carrie chose for him.
It would be baggy jeans, like baggy is back in. That's the new style, but not that's the old new style. Like I have so many questions there, but hey, I digress. It makes no sense to me. But next up, we get again Anthony complaining to Giuseppe about him not willing to wear a uniform. The only reason I want to bring this up because to me it brings up a very interesting topic. Are you willing to export? Am I saying that right?
Exploit.
Exploit. Thank you. How I get the other word that makes no sense, but couldn't get that one. That's crazy. Exploit your partner for your business.
I think no. And I'm not surprised though, because this is Anthony we're talking about, right? But
Yeah.
also again, in my head, I'm like, did he think this all the way through?
No.
Because you're not, listen, I don't care if I'm a straight woman, a bi woman, it doesn't matter what I am.
Yeah.
I think that it is overtly sexual to have these
Yes.
men outside of a bakery shop and you're trying to sell bread. I mean, because again, there's you just cut out a whole section of people who actually are going to want to eat
Hmm.
bread. Um, I think that him showing up and then the older lady saying I'll have what he's having and the guy saying I just feel like I don't like the double standard in this because if it were women in jumpsuits with big boobs, cleavage and booties and whatnot, we'd be like, oh, that's like
Uh-uh.
distasteful.
I want you to put it together what you just said. If it was women with big boobs and big booties, it would be a double standard. It wasn't. The restaurant existed for over 40 years and it was called Hooters. It's
Mm,
literally the
yeah, you're
same
right.
thing.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Got
It's
me there.
literally the same exact thing here. It's just with bread. Now, the difference is though, I think women are willing to still appreciate other women's bodies to the extent where they would still buy and go to your establishment. I don't think it's a lot of non wi- cisgendered. I was looking for the word to use there. I don't think there's many cisgendered men that's going to go to your bakery if everybody has their, uh,
Their breast sticks out.
I was trying to find a way to say that without being like overtly like they're blank, blank, blank. But
I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
it would
because
be
we understand
uncomfortable.
that the double the unfortunate thing about the sexuality of men, most men, is that they don't get the same grace in terms of like sexual exploration that women do,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's unfortunate because you get to expand on and really just expound on things that you are not even aware of, right? So like I don't know if you watched it, I'm pretty sure you did, but Sex Love and Goop, shit, Big Mouth, okay, which is a very
Yeah.
raunchy, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? But I learned things in Big Mouth that I did not know before. So for me, I think that it does allow a different level of exploration. But in this particular instance, I think it needed to be more thought out, a little bit more subtle, maybe. I mean, just maybe having both, right? Maybe not just having one, maybe figuring out a way to uh give another audience something that they want as well. So I
Mm.
mean, I do think that I'm wondering because I don't remember if just Giuseppe said anything when he did show up, but I
It's here
just
for your
think
service.
yeah, I just
But beforehand, he told him, "I don't want to be exploited." He literally said it. I don't want to be exploited anymore. Like he understood what it meant for him to have to put on that costume again, and he didn't want to do it, but someone who he's supposed to care for was only thinking about business.
But that's what I was gonna say. And what does that do to the relationship that you were willing to exploit me? And the fact that even in my uncomfortability, I decided to show up. There's so many different conversations to have just about that whole section right there,
Yep.
because
Hmm.
that can grow resentment and other things. But again, what does that do for the relationship in the future? I'm interested to see like what the conversation will be afterwards.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting because once he bends this way once, like it doesn't lead to him having to do this all the time now for Anthony. Whenever you're struggling to do something, you feel you can call your it's supposed to be your partner and have them exploit themselves to help you sell bread instead of doing what I said do, which is just get OnlyFans models and have them sell your bread for you. Like it's obvious what to do here. But again, he does not think about the obvious solution. The next up is Elliot and Sema. Elliot, for one, he's supposed to be a white man who's 90 years old. That's insane. Because I would have to look up because there's a chance that that actor actually is that old. But as he did say, the gay 90 is like the straight man 70. So, okay. Like that makes perfectly good sense. But him here telling Seema that he's ready to retire and that he has decided to sell his portion of their business to someone else. The question I want to ask you here is it ever okay if you are in a partnership with someone to blindside them the way Elliot blindsides Seema here?
Of course not. It's a conversation. It's literally always a conversation. Partnership in any form is constant communication,
Okay.
constant
Mhm.
effective, right? Because you can be constant and over communicate and still not get your shit across, right? So
Yeah.
constant effective communication. I think a
Yeah.
simple conversation. Listen, he did all that pulling her into the office to set her up with a matchmaker. You could have easily pulled me
And he
into the
could have
office
told
to
her
say,
that
like,
I'm ready
hey,
to
I'm ready.
retire.
Exactly. It is a simple conversation. So I was very disappointed in Elliot, and I think that um I'm not at all. Listen, again, rich people problems, whatever, what they call it, elite people problems, because the way
Yes.
she was like, I got a gazillion hours to leave and I'm gonna take them starting right now is I would love to use that line in the near future.
Hey, who you telling? Like that isn't. And also, how do you have leave at a place where you're like, aren't you like a partner? I'm confused here. Like you don't got no damn leave. You own part of this with me. Again, it just brings up questions for me as it pertains to Elliot and his respect level for Seema. Because to me, that's more respect than anything.
Hmm.
Down to even when she says, "I'm supposed to buy you out in a couple years," and he said, "Well, are you ready to do it now?" It's like, how did we get here? Like that's a very weird thing to go about or to do business with your partner in that fashion. So it does make you question a lot of things. But here, let's just stay on Seema's storyline for the rest of this episode here, as we see the tug of war back and forth with her here, as she ends up later on calling Carrie and deciding to also go on Carrie's book trip as she tells her everything that's going on. And then we get the revelations from Seema on the book trip. First, it was, I think I just need to separate and go about my own business. And it goes from that to her or questioning could she get her name on the door, which means that's a name partner is a little bit different than one behind the scenes. And then her being told that's not possible and then her quickly questioning, should I just be okay with working with the biggest agent in New York? And then after the flat tire, and they're saying, this is a sign I should not go backwards. Is what did you think about this whole arc of Seema in this episode?
I loved it because I think that sometimes, even though we're not looking for a physical sign, it does
Mm-hmm.
show up when you most need it. And I think that questioning your worth, once you start
Mm,
doing that, right, that's a whole different ball game, a whole different slope. And I think you gotta catch yourself really quickly because if you don't,
yeah.
you'll end up in the darkness, right? And so I love that she was saying, like, no, like she's thinking about it. She's saying, I could just be okay and satisfied and just, settle for this. But I
Yeah.
asked for my name. The name was not possible, not even thought about, right? Not even like, let me think about that and get back to you. Nothing, like
Mm-hmm.
just a flat out no. And to me, it was her being like, no, 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 my worth is like, because remember, she said something in terms of like, she's been, I don't want to say booking, but maybe like retaining or like maintaining those relationships with her clients. So ideally, I
Yep.
feel like if she was to leave and create her own thing, she'd have clients that she can already, start her own firm with. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that I loved it because, again, when we're talking about growth and showing
Yes.
actual maturity, actual like, oh, I have a moment. Let me feel that moment, let me understand that moment, and then okay, let me go through it and figure out what's on the other
Mm,
side. I think Seema does a good job at that. It's not always pretty because it's never going to be pretty, but like at least she takes a moment to like, I think she pauses and she really
yeah.
does sift through things a lot more than some of the other characters we have. So I was excited for that, but even for me watching,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got lost in her without like looking at that scene or looking at her arc from that critic view, because I'm like, oh man, like that does make sense. Like sometimes you just need a physical sign that tells you like you cannot go backwards, and
Yeah.
that was that.
I think that, and that's what it needed to hint towards for her, is that going backwards would be dangerous for you of whatever you're trying to pursue. And it's just a sign that maybe it's this time to go on with your business, which I think is the most important element here with Seema. This episode is coming to that conclusion. I need to focus on me. Next up, the next person we're going to focus on here is Miranda, as we get to this dinner with her and Joy. And it seems innocent up until we get to the end, and it turns to something completely different here. Is what did you think about the way we see this turn happen between these two in this episode?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit confused, right? Not because I didn't understand
Mhm.
what was happening, but because it seemed I couldn't tell. And I think that goes into maybe like having a
Mhm.
conversation to say
Yeah,
like, or like it could have been a pause, like, so is this still like is this still like business related? Like I want to make sure that, you know what I mean, that kind of
yeah.
thing.
Uh-huh.
Um what's funny? I feel like sometimes where Miranda can use her comedy, she doesn't, because that would have been a perfect moment to make that joke.
Yes.
Um, but I do feel like she's I think that she's making progress. I
Hmm.
think that also Miranda needs to understand intimacy versus sex.
Uh,
So, because I feel like sometimes she can get lost in the lust of things and she's not really considering what the intimate part looks like and what she
mm,
actually needs versus what she thinks she needs. And so I was like, okay, she's having this conversation. She seems comfortable,
yeah.
confident. All right, cool. She's in the moment. She didn't do anything extra. Cool. So I like that for her. I do think that she's just progressing a little bit slower than I guess in my head I probably would have wanted, but she's still
Yeah.
progressing nonetheless.
And I think that's the most important part, is that she's still progressing. And we see again the moves that put on to her by Joy. And I think that's just a way to make Miranda feel more comfortable, to know that she actually does see you possibly in the same light you see her. So maybe it's now safe for you to attempt to proceed and pursue. And I think that is the most important thing here with Miranda, is that right to do so. Okay, next up, again, we've already talked about Seema storyline. We talked about Miranda storyline. We talked about Charlotte. I think and is off with a high note and with Carrie and Aiden. As Aiden goes to pick up Carrie and Seema after they have the flat tire, they get back to Aiden's farm. And this is where he breaks the news to Carrie that I have a deal that if something was to change, they would know in advance and they don't know that you're here. Go ahead and please stay in the guest house. Did you think it was a chance that Aiden was going to stay with her in the guest house? Or are you surprised that Aiden left her in there by herself?
Not surprised at all, but surprised at the
Mm,
fact that you're saying they need to know a day in advance, but you knew more than a day in advance she was coming to
that
visit.
she
So
was
I'm
coming. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
it's not feeling it's I don't like it's almost like it's a yo-yo, right? Like it's
Mm,
like I can call you back when I want you, but when I don't feel like playing with you, I'm gonna put you over here, right? Or
yeah.
I'm gonna just do this with you real
Mm-hmm.
quick, and I'm gonna let you see that okay, I still got some juice for you, and then I'm gonna just put you over there, and I just don't understand. And I'm again,
Say it again.
we will see when if
Uh-huh.
she addresses the conversation, but again, there's no boundaries. Carrie's not like putting her foot down, and I don't know because I'm thinking about Carrie from Sex and the City, and even the first season of And Just Like That, she had cojones, like
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean. And so
Yep.
now I'm wondering if it's the I don't want to be alone bug, so I'm willing to settle for
Mm,
what these bits and pieces are. And I again, it would have been real simple, and maybe it would have even turned into an uncomfortable conversation or a bit of a disagreement slash argument because I'm in therapy, so I'm trying to stay in positive, right? An uncomfortable
yeah.
conversation,
Uh-huh.
disagreement. If I would have just
It's
said,
supposed to happen.
but you knew I was coming 3 days ago, Aiden. Why didn't you tell the boys that I was coming? Now he could have said, well, I didn't think you were going to stay, or I wasn't sure you were going to stay the night, which is fine.
Yes.
But nonetheless, still, they should know that there's a possibility that you might come and they might get an opportunity to meet you. I think that's just like courtesy and respect. And right now, it doesn't feel like he respects her. It's very
There you go.
uncomfortable.
I think that's the key element here. It doesn't feel like the point that you asked this woman who you supposed to be prepared to spend the rest of your life with to go in your guest house to make your sons uncomfortable for the night is insane. When we all know it's only one son you're worrying about protecting here.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the issue here.
And not only that, but the ease of it, because I don't feel like his I'm sorry or or whatever that
Hmm.
was, I don't feel like it was sincere. I don't feel like it was compassion or that it was really apologetic. I feel like that was the basic like I'm like throwaway. And I could just be being hard on
Mm,
Aiden, but here's what I didn't like, and they did it for a reason. That pull away shot showing you Carrie in one house writing while showing
yeah.
that next house, like they I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mm, that's interesting.
Because nobody because listen, you could be upset, but if you can't really see the distance or the visual, it's like, oh, okay, but like no, you get to see her in this house by
It's
herself.
the
Right?
overhead shot and then the pan out through the panel windows. And
Yes.
when you see that, you're like, oh, that's a signal just how far apart these two and her typing in the book. And what she's typing in the book is about arriving somewhere and her feelings behind that. As again, she's telling everybody it's a book of fiction. It's clearly not a book of fiction because she's literally writing a book about her own life at the present time. But I've never really thought about it for that shot. The way that was set up just to show you the appropriate amount of distance that separated them two. I'm just more shocked that Aiden at no point in time made it. He made it sound like, at first to me at least, that I thought he was going to stay with her. But the point you just put her in a guest house, she could have stayed at the hotel then.
Hello, for real. Maybe if I'd have saw if that shot would have been shot differently or the same
Hmm.
with Aiden scurrying to the guest house, I'm like, oh, okay, at least he's making an effort. But you got my
Yeah.
girl in there
Hmm.
typing on her like, sir, we
Mm.
could have, like you said, we could have had whatever nice accommodations at a hotel, and you could have just
Yes.
met me for breakfast in the morning. Because seriously, what we
Yes.
doing here?
Yeah. That was the biggest question here. I think that's it for this episode. As we have ran through everybody, I'm so more focused on Harry having to pee on himself for Charlotte's dreams to come true. That really irritated
That's
me.
love. Okay, that is love.
I don't want to be in enough love. I need to pee on myself. I just don't. But what are your final thoughts on Just Like That, episode 3?
Carrie, get out of there. Okay, run, girl. It's flags all over the place. I'm so
Molly, you in
confused.
danger, girl.
Just get out of
Carrie, you in
there.
danger, girl.
I this episode was better. Sema's
Yes.
storyline for sure. Miranda, Lisa, Carrie, then Charlotte, in order for
Yeah.
me in terms of who's really settling in.
Yes.
And I think that they're all starting to come into that space. We're starting to get more cohesive, and I hope that it does
Mhm.
by the next episode. But you start to see it flow a little bit better. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Seema is figuring it out, so we know her, her next step. Carrie
Yes.
seems to be in a very, it's almost like she's in neutral, like she's not moving forward, but she's not moving backward either. She's
Mm.
just there. And so I think that that's something that I would like to see more, like more action. And then for Miranda,
Yeah.
again, hoping that she understands the intimacy versus the sex, like completely different, like
Mhm.
understand, especially when you've been, obviously she's been married to a man, and now you're in this new space and you're journeying into being with women. And it's a different
Mhm.
level of understanding what that looks like for you. You see what I'm saying? Like
That's
she's
it.
not
Yep.
even, I don't think she fully explored it for herself before she
Mhm.
started jumping into situations. And so I would like to see more of that. So I'm excited for the next episode because I think this one was more cohesive. It gave us more weight, if that makes sense, for each character. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it here. And then, fans, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about Miranda and Joy. Is this a relationship you want to see moving forward? What do we think about Seema venturing out on her own finally to start her own? I don't know what Seema does for a living. I was about to say practice, but she's not a lawyer. But I think she's a broker. Let's say broker.
Oh
You know,
yes, she is. She is a
she's a
broker.
broker, and her deciding to step out on her own to have something that she owns in her name and her name only. And what do we think about Charlotte here? And is this a valuable lesson for all moms to learn? You don't have to be cool. You don't have to be hip to still get the job done. I think that's important. And finally, what do you think about Carrie and Aiden at this point? Do you believe that this separation created from this night of her staying on his farm and her staying in the guest house and him staying in the main house, could that lead to future problems for them too? You can check us out every Thursday after the episode drops on HBO Max. Like, comment, subscribe. Dang, never I could think of the. How can I not think of the word that I said earlier that had everybody puzzled? Because I was going to
Capitulate.
use it right there.
Mm.
Capitulate. Capitulate to the comments. I know that's not the way to use the word. And don't y'all dare try to bring it up to me. That's not the way to use the word. I know how to use capitulate. I used it earlier properly. That's not the way to use it, but it's funny. So I'm going to go with it. But capitulate to the comments and let us know what you
I'm done with you,
about
sir.
this episode. And just like that, we are at the end of another amazing recap review of the hit HBO Max show. And just like that, peace, people.